2 weeks, voters will cast their ballots in Pennsylvania's primary. And in Dauphin, as well as Cumberland and York counties, Democrats will decide who they want to challenge Republican Representative Scott Perry. Tonight, the stage is set at York College of Pennsylvania for candidates to make their case. This is WGAL's Commitment 2024, 10th Congressional District Democratic Debate. Here are your moderators, Tom Lehman and Caitlin Smith.
Good evening. We are live inside the Waldner Performing Arts Center here at York College of Pennsylvania. We are thankful for the audience members who are joining us live here, as well as all of you watching us from home. Tonight, we're going to hear from the Democratic candidates for Pennsylvania's 10th Congressional District. And those candidates include Blake Lynch, former WITF executive, retired Marine Corps Top Gun fighter pilot Mike O'Brien, former television news anchor Janelle Stelson, retired Army officer and Carlisle School Board member Rick Copeland, entrepreneur and business consultant John Broadhurst, and Harrisburg City Councilwoman Shemaine Daniels. Candidates will have 60 seconds for both opening and closing statements, as well as 60 seconds to answer questions. If a follow-up question is asked, you will have 30 seconds to answer. You'll all notice there is a timer here in front of you. When it turns red, quickly, please wrap up your thought, and we will also remind you that your time is up. Candidates will not be allowed to ask questions of each other. We're going to start now with the opening statements in our predetermined order, beginning with Blake Lynch.
Good evening, and thank you so much for having us all here tonight at York College. Tonight, you're going to hear from candidates on the stage who have claimed to raise over $500,000, while our families and nonprofits struggle every single day in the 10th Congressional District. You're going to hear from those on this stage tonight who have read the news for many years, but there are others on this stage who have been making the news, impacting our communities. You may hear tonight from those who are already career politicians, continuing to serve our communities at other levels that have done this before, and also those who may not have lived here for a set amount of time. Let's try something different. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, and I am that candidate. And I look forward to telling you more about our campaign and how we're going to defeat Scott Perry and inspire the next generation to come out and win the White House as well for President Biden.
Mike O'Brien, you have 60 seconds for your opening statements.
Thank you, and thanks for coming tonight. Make no mistake, this primary is all about who can beat Scott Perry. I believe the answer to that is linked to our values, who we are, where we come from. My wife Courtney and I come from Pennsylvania. We were raised with Pennsylvania values: family, community, saying what you mean and doing what you say. We also come from the United States Marine Corps. It's one of the most trusted institutions in America, who prides itself in the core values of honor, courage, and commitment. So for 20 years as a Marine, as a Top Gun fighter pilot, and as a squadron commander, my success depended upon character, integrity, and trust. As a Pennsylvanian and Marine, you can trust that I'll hold Scott Perry accountable for the oath of office that Courtney and I upheld and that he betrayed, and started moving right here to reclaim freedom, patriotism, and the American flag itself in the name of democracy.
Thank you. Janelle Stelson, you have 60 seconds.
Thank you. I will say you learn a lot about a place by telling its story for 38 years. You learn about family-crushing job losses after Tyco took over AMP in the 1990s, and thousands of Harrisburg area workers were told their jobs were gone. You learn about the indignity of coming home from war, but there is no home or job or mental health care for some of our military men and women who are struggling with what they've seen on the battlefield. You hug a mother devastated that her son is the latest victim of gun violence. Poorly paid teachers tell you about reaching into their own pockets to make sure their students have what they need to succeed. You learned about our broken healthcare system from two York County sisters, both dying of cancer, desperately trying to care for one another. And you learned that the Congress, when we elected to do something about these things, is failing miserably. That's why I gave up the job I love, to stop telling about these stories and start doing something about them.
Thank you, Janelle. Rick Copeland, you have 60 seconds.
So thanks, WGAL, for this tremendous opportunity and everyone here tonight. Folks, with your help, I will defeat Scott Perry and serve you more effectively in Congress than either Perry or any of my competitors. I'm the only person up here that has won an election as a Democrat in a Republican district. I've done that twice. I have the depth and breadth of experience to serve you and to solve problems for you in Congress from day one. I offer my lifetime of hard-earned wisdom as a West Point graduate, an 82nd Airborne Division combat veteran, an international peacekeeper, a small business co-owner, a rural resident and farmer, a nonprofit leader helping veterans and other folks get better jobs, a teacher, and a serving elected official for 9 years. And most importantly, as the loving husband of 36 years and the father of 2 amazing adult daughters. Thank you.
Thank you. John Broadhurst, 60 seconds.
Yes, thank you for having me. For Democrats and Americans who follow the news closely, many of them have the impression that America is going mad. We tolerate historic levels of economic inequality. We normalize hate. We do very little to address the climate crisis. And now we're expected to cower to fascism. I say enough. Enough. In times of crisis, leadership requires 3 things: knowledge, conviction, and the ability to take on the status quo. This is exactly what I bring to the election. It also requires, especially in 2024, political independence. I think I'm the only one on stage who has that. A vote for me is a vote for someone who cannot be bought, who's not going to Congress to be told what to do or what positions to take, and who will constantly work for the interests of working-class Americans.
Thank you. Shemaine Daniels, you have 60 seconds.
Thank you. My name is Shemaine Daniels. I'm a longtime resident of Harrisburg, an attorney, a daughter, and a mom, and a councilwoman. Most of you already know me in one of these capacities or another. And for those who don't know me yet, it's really nice to meet you this evening. My story is the American story. I came to this country as a child, became a US citizen, and have served my community in various roles throughout my career, whether as a councilwoman advancing affordable housing, making it easier for small businesses to open, or addressing environmental concerns in Harrisburg. Whether it's an attorney representing workers, protecting civil rights, or representing immigrants in their immigration journeys, or as an advocate protecting and then later fighting for our right to choose. Our stories and shared values have brought many of us together over the years. In 2022, I ran against Scott Perry when no one thought he was beatable. I stood up and took him on, and I'm proud of the race I ran. And with our success, this race is now targeted, which is why there are so many candidates running tonight. I'm asking the Democratic primary voters one question: do you want our nominee to be someone you know and can trust shares your value? And if that's the case, I ask for your vote tonight. Thank you.
Shemaine Daniels, thank you very much. Our first question tonight is about inflation and rising economic costs.
According to last week's Franklin and Marshall College poll, 29% of registered Democratic voters in Pennsylvania said they were better off financially than they were a year ago. Compare that to 25% who said they were worse off and 46% who said they were about the same. We're going to stick with the order that was predetermined before the debate started. And Blake Lynch, where do you think Congress can do better on making it easier for families to keep up with the cost of goods that they need?
It's a great question. It's because it's one that my wife and I live every single day. We are parents to 2 amazing young boys, one 9 and one 5, where the cost of daycare is $1,300 a month for my 5-year-old. That's just one bill. And when we talk about student loans, which combined, my wife and I have reached over 6 figures in that payment. Then we talk about mortgages and everything else. And when you go to the grocery store, you're feeling it there too. Many of our families over the Easter break felt it trying to host many of their loved ones, and they feel it every single day. The first thing I would do when I get into Washington, D.C. is propose legislation to help ease that, not only for working families, but those who are on the other scale, those of our seniors, many who are splitting their prescription drugs, trying to make things stretch, trying to make sure that they have the affordability and not only just applying for LIHEAP assistance, but much other assistance because they can't make it. So that's what we're going to do. The very first thing we get to DC is represent all of us.
Thank you. Mike O'Brien, how do you help families that have been struggling in this economy and with inflation?
Yeah, no, it's very clear that there are way too many families here in South Central Pennsylvania that are living paycheck to paycheck, and we need the freedom from that, and we need a congressman who can do something about it. So I'll talk specifics here with 4 points. Number 1, minimum wage. That's got to be equivalent to a living wage indexed to inflation, so that goes up over the course of time. The second is staunch support of unions, America's workers. I'm proud to have the support of the largest union in the district, as well as the Smart Transportation Division and the iron workers as well. So we've got to support America's workers if we're going to get back to a family-sustaining wage. Third, antitrust and anti-monopoly legislation. We've got to break up big tech, big pharma, big ag, all these conglomerates. Those are the ones that are making money. That's where the wealth is going. And last but not least, are specific changes to the tax code. So at the high end of this, I'm very much in favor of increasing capital gains tax, increasing value-added tax, and on the lower end, we've got to continue to enhance the child tax credit that lifted 4 million children out of poverty. And then also make the child care tax credit refundable to put money back into pockets as soon as we can.
Janelle Stelson, what is a policy that you might support to try and help struggling families that are dealing with these rising costs of everyday goods?
Well, I think right away you have to talk about the minimum wage, which is $7.25 here. It's outrageous. Every state around us has almost double that amount for a minimum wage. West Virginia has a higher minimum wage than we have. And we need to talk about the living wages as well. You know, we need to lower healthcare costs, which takes a big chunk out of people's budgets, and certainly expand coverage. And right there, Congressman Scott Perry is the one. He touts himself a fiscal conservative, but he voted against the government's ability to negotiate prescription drug prices with pharmaceutical companies, which is going to save about $100 billion in fairly short order for taxpayers, and also will save the average person, the average family, about $150 a month. I'd like to see that expanded beyond 10 drugs as soon as possible and beyond Medicare. And by the way, Scott Perry did this while he was taking money from Big Pharma.
Janelle, thank you. Rick Copeland, what strategy might you bring to Washington to try and help families dealing with inflation?
So thanks very much. I'm going to highlight, first of all, I'm willing to bet some of my students are watching tonight, so I better do a good job with this question. I actually teach economics for Elizabethtown College. I taught it at West Point long ago. So the first thing that comes to mind is, you know what? The Federal Reserve has done a good job, I think, of trying to reduce inflation. President Biden's done a good job with the Inflation Reduction Act, and yet we all know this is a serious problem for all of us. Some of my teammates up here have mentioned a living wage. I'm going to be very specific. We need a living wage now of $21 an hour. $7.25 an hour is absolutely correct. That's poverty wages. That's cruel. That's inhumane. $21 an hour by MIT is the assessment for this region for a single person. Also, I'm a strong supporter of Senator Bob Casey for re-election, and as your congressman, I will vote for his shrinkflation bill and also do things to adjust and to address greedflation. The last thing I'll say, public education and training for everyone, that's the key to being able to earn a living wage. Thank you.
Rick, thank you. John Broadhurst, there's a lot of different views about how to help families in this economy. What would you bring to Washington?
Well, first of all, I agree with some of the points that my colleagues have made tonight, in particular Mike on the child income tax credit. I think that's very important. But it's really important to bear in mind that the people who are suffering the most are really from low-income households. And because overall the economy is doing well according to the general macro data. The reality is, however, for people in low-income brackets, housing is extremely expensive. There is one thing that Congress can do almost immediately, certainly next January, and that is to create a tax break for people who rent their properties. Homeowners have tax breaks. They can write off their mortgages, etc. For people who are paying above 30% in rental, they deserve tax relief, in my view. The other thing is, when it comes to healthcare, I've proposed eliminating all medical debt in the United States, which today comes to a little over $200 billion. This, once again, affects people of low-income brackets. So these two things are very concrete measures that the next Congress can take.
John Broadhurst, thank you. And Shemaine Daniels, families in the 10th District, they are struggling with a lot of costs right now, everyday products that they need. What do you think Congress should do about it? What would you bring to the table?
Well, I think a lot of my colleagues addressed a lot of the things we could do at the policy level to address the financial struggles of our residents in PA10. But what we also need is a representative who shows up and does their job and who values all of their constituents equally and their concerns equally. And that's what we've been lacking, and that's why I'm asking voters to vote for the candidate who does have a record for listening to their constituents and trying to find solutions to their problems. It's that simple.
Shemaine, thank you.
All right. Our second question deals with just representing the 10th district as a whole. It's a very politically divided district. We begin this time with Mr. Mike O'Brien as a member of the military, as is Mr. Copeland. You have served our entire country, no matter the party. In 60 seconds, how would you work with all parties in Congress to get things done for the 10th district and also represent all of the people in the district?
Yeah, well, this answer, I believe, speaks to trust. And I want to go back to the beginning of the last debate when Janelle said that she changed her registration because she wanted to run in the party that she's been voting in. Well, guess what? Voting records are public. And the record shows that she's been voting in the Republican primary for over 20 years. After January 6th, 2021 municipal elections, 2022 as well. There are no Democrats on that ballot. These are people that are anti-abortion, anti-union, anti-public education, anti-climate, anti-democracy. So the problem isn't just that she voted for Republicans after January 6th. It's if we can't trust her to tell us the truth about who she's been voting for, then how can we trust her on what she's going to vote for?
Janelle Stelson, you have 30 seconds to respond to Mr. O'Brien, and then you will have 60 seconds to answer the question.
Okay, thank you. In response, I would just say, you have just given Scott Perry his dream. This Dem-on-Dem violence, I think everybody up here is doing an outstanding job in this race. Let's cut it out, let's keep our eyes on the prize, and let's go after the guy who really needs to be gotten rid of.
And now you have 60 seconds to answer how you would work with and for those of differing political views.
Well, I think we're a lot more cohesive than people think. Just because Scott Perry has been sowing chaos in Congress for 12 years, you know, this 118th Congress has accomplished 27 pieces of legislation at last count, and 4 of those were just keeping the government open, which he voted against every time, unlike his Republican and Democratic members of the congressional delegation from Pennsylvania. So this is a guy who is bent on mayhem in Washington. And we have, you know, so many pressing problems that need immediate attention that we have to work together. You know, him going to the border, I guess it's been more than a month now, but talking about our asylum process being broken. Is there anybody in this room who didn't know we're having a problem with immigration at this point? And he did it on the taxpayer dime again. So this is the kind of thing I think we all need to reach across the aisle and work on our biggest problems and take care of business. He's had 12 years. You know, what's he done? Bupkis.
Thank you, Janelle. Rick Copeland, as a member of the Carlisle School Board, and as you mentioned in your opening statements, you've won as a Democrat in a Republican district in Congress. How would you work with those of differing political backgrounds and also represent them in the 10th district?
So thanks very much for the excellent question. I want to say a shout out to the staffers. You didn't see this, it was off camera, I'm sure. They came out and gave me a new microphone. Thanks to those staffers for helping me out that way. I really appreciate it. So first and foremost, thank you for highlighting the school board. I work for 9 years.
Mr. Copeland, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Unfortunately, we're still having some microphone technical issues. We will definitely give you your full 60 seconds. We will move on and we will have a technical crew come out and take care of you. Thank you so much. Moving on to John Broadhurst for now. As part of your campaign, you did talk about reaching out to constituencies that Democrats have not successfully appealed to in recent years. What did you mean by that? And in 60 seconds, how would you stand up for all of the people in the 10th district?
Well, I think Democrats have not done very well in recent cycles at appealing to African Americans, for example, to young voters in particular. Now, 20 years ago, a young voter might have been the age of 20 or 22, 23. Today, it's usually anyone under 40. And I sense that these people are, many of these people are disillusioned, dismayed, disgruntled, and really have no trust. They don't trust the Democratic Party, and they don't trust the Republican Party. So the only way you gain their trust is by speaking honestly about the issues. And the reality is that all of our problems are not due to MAGA. MAGA has always been with us in American history, in one iteration or another. whether it's the John Birch Society, whether it's during Reconstruction, the Ku Klux Klan, and we'll be doing this forever unless we start to address the causes. I don't agree often with Mike, but I will here tonight. I think the importance of someone entering the wrong door and coming to a Democratic primary is something we should be concerned about.
Thank you for your comments. Let's try to go back to Rick Copeland and give you a chance, your full 60 seconds to answer this question. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to once again say thank you to the staffers and whoever just did some magic to get me a microphone that's working. Thank you very much. So I want to highlight, as you did in the question originally, I serve on the Carlisle School Board. I've done that for 9 years. We are a bipartisan board with Republicans and Democrats and some very significant differences of opinion. We have been hammering out budgets that fully and fairly fund our children's education despite a lack of help from the state. So what do you have to do to get bipartisanship? And I believe it is possible. I've been a part of that. The first thing you have to do is look for common ground and think about what is it that we do agree on, even if we violently disagree on many things. The one thing that always comes first to my mind is our children and the future of our children. In fact, I think that's the best decision criteria for everything we do. Everything from gun safety to health care to ensuring that our planet is cared for, it's all about our children, and everybody should be able to agree with that, regardless of party.
Thank you for that answer. Let's go to Shemaine Daniels now. You serve on the Harrisburg City Council, which is made up of all Democrats. As a member of Congress, in 60 seconds, how would you work with and for people with views opposed to yours?
Oh, absolutely. So I have a work record. I've represented workers across the U.S. And one of the things I've learned over the years is that people are focused on solving problems. Here in Pennsylvania 10, we have a shortage of a workforce, and that matters to Republicans and Democrats. We have a shortage of healthcare workers, and that matters to Republicans and Democrats. And I have a record of solving a lot of these problems, and everyone knows that I'm someone who they can approach. I'm also someone who has a record for integrity. Because you're a Democrat doesn't mean that I accept things that are not true. So I think I have a strong record of working with Republicans and Democrats when it comes to addressing the really necessary life-sustaining needs of our residents.
Shemaine Daniels, thank you. Blake Lynch, you have stressed the importance of working in a bipartisan fashion. How would you represent in Congress all of the people in the 10th District, despite their political views?
It is the way I've been doing it all my life. Whether it was attending school at Messiah College in Cumberland County, or growing up in Dauphin County, or attending church here in York County. It is about connecting people the entire way. Because what's really important is what someone has already done. Having the resume that's been proven already. Whether it was when I was Senior Vice President at WITF Public Media, advocating for education for our children. And people aren't asking if you're Republican or Democrat when it comes to kids. When I was at the Harrisburg Bureau of Police, working alongside our officers, Republican or Democrat, no one cared, because it was about getting home safely. It was about protecting our communities, being there with everyone, and making sure that we were getting the job done. That's what we've done for years. That's what I've done for years. And it continued to elevate, working with 2 mayoral administrations in the city of Harrisburg as the Director of Community Relations and Program Administrator, advocating for the needs of our families is very important. So that trust starts on day one and at the ground level, which has already been proven.
Thank you.
Blake, thank you. Members of Congress obviously have a big part in getting federal dollars to the communities they serve. The 10th House District is no exception to that. To all of the candidates, can you name a specific project, maybe an issue in the district that you would want to prioritize for funding? We're going to start this round with Janelle Stelson.
Boy, there are so many pressing needs. I'd say homelessness, hunger issues, basically taking care of the most vulnerable among us and strengthening the middle class at the same time. Part of the way you do this is through the tax system. When you have the top 55 companies in this country paying little or no taxes, that money can certainly be used for other things we need here. I would also like to point out, some of the basic things we all do, our roads and bridges, our broadband internet access. All of these things are infrastructure. And Scott Perry voted time and time again against the Infrastructure Act that took place that is now delivering projects in this area that are making our lives better, and they are family-sustaining union jobs as well, taking care of some of these things. So, In terms of getting money here, these are all issues that we need to take care of. And if we want to go further, we need to make sure that Ukraine has all the aid it needs, because that affects our grocery tables, the gas in our cars. So there are a lot of different ways to get money in.
Thank you, Janelle. Rick Copeland, how would you prioritize federal dollars here in House District 10?
So number one, I want to highlight, a congressman is one of many. So we have a voice, we have an opportunity to use the bully pulpit, which I believe is very important for every single issue. The first thing that comes to my mind, similarly, is infrastructure. There are so many different projects that we need help with. Absolutely, Scott Perry has failed us on this in so many regards. Just a few hours ago, my campaign sent out a mass email that said, what would happen and how would you feel about it if the South Bridge connecting Harrisburg with Cumberland County fell down tomorrow, just like what would happen in Baltimore? And you know what Scott Perry said just recently on camera? He said, well, you know what? U.S. taxpayers shouldn't be paying this. It should be strictly the insurance from the ship companies. Well, bottom line, yeah, we could wait for years and years for that to happen. President Biden has taken the right action. Federal funds are flowing to that. If I were in Congress and the South Bridge fell down, I would take absolutely the same attitude and approach. Another thing that I believe we have to help contractors to do these sorts of things.
Rick, thank you. Moving on to John Broadhurst, how would you prioritize federal dollars in this district?
I'll just focus on one particular area, and that is housing. And I, like everyone here, have spent quite a lot of time canvassing and petitioning for votes in Harrisburg in particular. And I'm always impressed and shocked at just how dilapidated large parts of Harrisburg is today. I've been in homes that in other countries might have been razed to the ground and rebuilt. So I would like to be a very, very strong advocate for housing, and particularly in African American communities in Harrisburg. They have many other problems, public education, but housing is absolutely critical to this. Now, I'd also highlight that this is where there is an advantage at being independent, not tethered to the Democratic establishment. Someone with an independent mind can negotiate with the administration in a very transactional way. We know that politics is about transactions. So one of my objectives would be to bring back money to revitalize downtown Harrisburg.
John Broadhurst, thank you. Shemaine Daniels, how would you prioritize federal dollars in the 10th district?
Well, absolutely differently than Scott Perry. He refused the optional ARPA funds that would have been very, very helpful to our district. But again, you have a record of my voting record, and I would bring those funds in a similar way. Affordable housing is a challenge for those living in both rural spaces and urban spaces, and we need to make sure that our residents have a safe space to be so that they could address all of their other concerns. The other thing we need to focus on is large portions of the 10th are food deserts, and we can support our agriculture segment and industry by embracing and supporting the access of fresh produce within our district. I, for example, often have to do a lot of my shopping in Lancaster County, which is outside of the district, because we have significant shortages of fresh produce within the district. And we have to make sure that whichever representative we have, that it's a person who cares about the flourishing of our residents in the 10th, because we cannot afford the health costs that come from not eating well, the lack of health care that comes from not having good housing and employment attached to it. So that's it. Thank you.
Shemaine Daniels, thank you. Moving on over to Blake Lynch, how would you prioritize federal dollars?
Two projects for sure, which are key areas for our district. One is personal for me because my son attends a public school. As the only person on this stage with children currently in public schools, there's no reason why my son should have been sent home during heat waves because there's no air conditioning in the Central Dauphin School District in some of the elementary schools. There's no reason. We pay taxes for that. And federal dollars could come back and help and assist. That could also be great quality, high quality union jobs that are helping to build and repurpose those schools and expand the schools because of overcrowding. Another one, of course, is the senior population and affordable housing. There's no reason why my grandparents and others who are throughout the district should have to suffer with leaky roofs and underserved and under-resourced buildings that are falling decapitated throughout the district. That is something that the federal government needs to step up and have a congressman who's able to do that because they experience it and they live it every single day.
Blake, thank you. Mike O'Brien, how would you prioritize those dollars in the 10th district?
Yeah, I'll first say Blake's right, his kids go to school here now, but my kids are across the country with my wife, who is a commanding officer of a Marine Corps squadron of 400 Marines. And as soon as they finish school, they're gonna go here. We're building a house over in Hampton Township in Cumberland County, Shaw Elementary next year, 5th and 3rd grade, so we can't wait to start our life here and settle down. And I'll touch on the funding piece. I was a commanding officer as well. We were the first married couple in the history of the Marine Corps to command squadrons. And what kept me up at night wasn't preparing my squadron to fight a war. Honestly, it was the mental health of my Marines. And the good news there in the Marine Corps is that we had resources. We had behavioral health, we had the hospital, we had the chaplain, we had the chain of command. But I know that in civilian society, in our society, we don't have that. And so that's going to be a priority to me, because I think that mental health touches so many issues that we deal with, between education, addiction, housing, specifically homelessness. So that's going to be the #1 priority for me when you're talking about money in the district.
Thank you, Mike O'Brien. And we've been talking about going to school here in the district as we sit in the venue of York College of Pennsylvania. Let's take a look at the college now. WGAL's Commitment 2024 10th Congressional District Democratic Debate continues right after this break.